Shalom, Bruchim Habaim. Welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to talk about something that is very confusing for a lot of students. And that is that we have verbs that seem to be passive in English, and we are absolutely sure they are in the passive voice. And now when we want to put them in Hebrew in the passive voice, it's actually Hitpael. So, did we get it wrong in English or what's going on in Hebrew? So, something here apparently got lost in the middle. How on earth could you end up in Hitpael when you actually only want to say, I am disappointed? To be disappointed sounds very passive voicish, and we end up in Hitpael, which is so much not the binyan for the passive voice. And I mean, come on, we have all the other passive voice binyanim. Where did they go? That I will disclose to you in this video. Okay, let's start. So before we go right into the subject, we start with something very easy. What is the passive voice? Stay with me. The reason I am doing this is because I will point out to you what are all the elements of the passive voice most of us are not aware of. And that might be the reason why we don't get it, that Hebrew is applying Hitpael, because we always wonder, how did we end up there? And why? Why is because we are not really aware of what we are doing. So, what is the passive voice? It's very, very quick. Stay with me. You have an agent that is the doer, the one who does the action, okay? And you have a receiver, somebody that receives the action, okay? And they are connected by the action. So far, super easy. Now, on the left side, we call it the active voice. On the right side, we call it the passive voice. In Hebrew, that means for the left side, Pa'al, Pi'el, Hif'il. And for the other side, it means Nifal, Pual, Hufal. Right? Right. If that is completely new to you, no problem. No need to feel ashamed. But that might be the moment you have a look into my book where I explain what are binyanim, what are they doing, and what are actually the basics of these verb patterns. There is also a workbook, which is a pure drill sheet collection. This is not the same like the big course, but I think that is a good introduction. So, and yeah, the link to everything I mentioned is always in the description of the video. So we move on. These are the 6 elements, three active voices, 3 passive voices. Now, what if I told you that this here on the right, we can completely forget about it because all of that gets replaced by Hitpael. What? What? Yeah, shocking, right? Of course, these are exceptional cases, but these cases are very much used in everyday life. So what on earth is that? Relax. I give you also at the end the rule of thumb, but for this you need this explanation that I give you now and all the elements, because otherwise you do not understand the rule of thumb. So this here is the true passive, right? And that here is not the true passive. I mean, you hardly find that in a grammar book, but when you look it up and you find it somewhere from the Hebrew Academy, of course in Hebrew, just in case you're interested, then they say, no, this is not passive, this is Hitpael. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this is an inner change. We are changing our inner state. This is not passive for Hebrew speakers. And this is where the confusion comes from. So normally, true passive is he opened the window. And to come to the passive voice, we say the window was opened. The window received the action of opening. Perfect. Now in Hebrew, hu patach et hachalon, hachalon niftach. Pual, Nifal. And by the way, this looks like an easy sentence in Hebrew, but most of my students, when I want them to change quickly like this, they cannot. They are good in one binyan, they are good in another binyan, but they're unable to connect them. This is one of the biggest strengths of the 90-day Hebrew course. I make you go like this through all the binyanim. Of course, we first focus on what is one and what is the other, but what I want you to be able to do at the end is to go around like this, to really use it. Again, if you're interested, link is in the description. Now, let's see what we say in English and what we do with this in Hebrew, based on the information I gave you. So in English, you see to be excited, to be disappointed. And what happens is when you see these verbs, you have this instinct of, this impulse of right away detecting be, to be. And your brain goes, oh, passive. Yeah, that is the problem. That is the problem. This is where the problem really lies and why we don't understand what's going on in Hebrew, because we are stuck in that pattern of thinking. But if you could consider that this here is not passive, that this is called a switch in emotional change, then you might be able to warm up to Hitpael, because this is what it is. So we come from to be excited to lehitרגש, to be disappointed, lehit'akhzev, to be confused, להתבלבל. And here everything is lehit. So to be, describing an emotional state, goes to Hitpael when it is not a true passive. Summary, rule of thumb. Here's the pattern. The true passive is with an agent. X was by Y. There's an external force that executed it, and that was important. That is basically the one where it happened, and without that agent, it could not have happened. Whereas the change of an emotional state, like X became this or that, this is a shift in a state, a shift in emotion. And the Hebrew language considers that you are having a responsible part in that, that not necessarily because somebody did that had to end in, let's say, your disappointment. You chose to be disappointed. There is not a necessity of being disappointed. You chose to take it as such. That I find a tremendous philosophy implied in the language. But this is the summary. So I also posted on my blog about it. Again, all the links are in the description of this video. Some people prefer to read it again instead of just watching a video, but this is the naked truth. You have responsibility when it comes to your emotions. Okay, cuties. Take a cold drink. I hope it's not as hot in your location as it is in mine. I can tell you gosh, I have the AC running day and night, and I feel it's not doing anything. It's not really true, but yeah, it is hot. It is hot. Okay, I see you next time. Neshikot, shalom.